A wee mo web, 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 a wee mo web. Skill quadrant learning. Skill quadrant learning. Let's just take two of this. Did a 10-minute video beforehand on so that as you, if you haven't guessed by now, the topic of this video will be skill quadrant learning. So basically, there are four stages of competence and consciousness of your competence, and this is inspired by Carolina's response to the video I did on her yesterday of her deadlift technique. Sorry, Carolina, but it was too good of a prompt to not make this video. Because she's four, and it's a really good example of four. So we'll talk through the four quadrants briefly. We'll have a quick discussion around what they each mean, and then I'm going to relate it to training and different stages of training. But it's a really useful schematic to know about, whether you're a complete novice or you're an expert performer, because it can help you frame your practice and frame where you're at. And sometimes you need to walk back from 4 to 3 to correct inefficiencies in your technique, which we'll discuss why that can be difficult for people. So quadrant one, and I'll put it up on the screen. Quadrant one is unconscious incompetence, when you are shit and you don't know why you're shit. Quadrant two is normally after a few sessions, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe a couple of months, which is you're consciously incompetent. So you're shit and you know you're shit, but you don't necessarily know how to go around not being shit. Quadrant three is conscious competence. I really need to work on my elocution. Thanks, Northern Irish schools. Conscious competence, where you can be good if you think about it, you focus on it, and think, where your frontal cortex can focus and produce movements that are desirable, or execute strategies that are desirable for what you're trying to do. But there'll be times where maybe you have a lapse of confidence, competence, consciousness, focus, where you do a bad rep. But if you do a bad rep, maybe you're doing squat, and you rush your descent and you fall forward. Then you, at the end of that rep, you have knowledge of results. From the knowledge of results, you can say, right, I fell forward on my foot. It was more difficult to stand up because there was too much weight in my toes and too much extension demand in my hip. Obviously, you wouldn't go through this entire fucking spiel. What I'm going to do on the next set is I'm going to really feel through my feet, root my feet, feel where my center of mass is, feel where my balance is, and slowly descend into the squat, so I give myself a better chance to be balanced, and then normally the next rep's better. So that's stage three. And then stage four is when you don't have to think about it and you're good. So that's unconscious competence, and this is where flow state lives. If you follow any form of sport journalism, or you watch sport, or you fucking imbibe shit like this, you'll know what flow is. Flow is when athletes kind of just get into the groove and they just execute. And normally in elite sport, such as like tennis, it's the athlete that can get in the zone and stay in the zone the longest that wins. There's a really good documentary actually on Netflix that follows the Pro Tour, and you can see them getting flustered. You can see there's a really good one. I can't remember the guy's name. He's Australian, but he's in a tournament and he's smashing guys. And then when things start going against him, he starts like being frustrated. He starts smashing fucking bats, and he starts losing, or rackets, where the fuck they call them in tennis. But yeah, the person who can be in flow state the most in training and in competition normally is the person that wins in most sports. So the reason why this is a good example, because Carolina basically, put up her comment, basically said she forgets that, she puts there was thought that went into these things, whereas she's pretty much like, for conventional deadlift, that's why I chose her, because she does a lot of things that I think are really desirable in a conventional deadlift on a stiff bar, but she does it without thinking because she's done it so much and it's just drilled in there. So where this could potentially, so I really like Franz Bosch's model of skill learning. I can't even remember his Franz Bosch, but anyway, the analogy is that skill is like a ball rolling in sand. So when you first start the skill learning process, the ball rolls in a really broad plane, and it's easy for the ball to roll out. So when you first start learning skill, it's really easy for you to go from one strategy to another. But as you get more advanced and you get the ball kind of rolls deeper and deeper, the lines of the valley get steeper and the ball kind of rolls around a tighter grouping. Now, it's not the case that a lot of people talk around skill learning and skill execution like it's really mechanistic. Oh my god, mechanistic. They talk in terms of like motor cortex programs and motor programs and things like that, which, you know, there is an element of that, but it's not reflective of reality because we're not fucking computers. We are biological systems. We're in a conglomeration of 80 to 90 trillion cells. Rep 1 is going to be fresher than rep 2. Rep 2 is going to be more fatigued. Rep 2, normally you have a knowledge of performance from rep 1, so quite a lot of times rep 2 is better than rep 1. Quite a lot of times rep 8 is not as good as rep 2. So even with the most expert of performer, the best of the best, Ed Cohen, like his 2 squats, rep 1 and 2 aren't the same. But that's the way they talk. They say it's the same. Rep 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 will be closer grouped than someone who's a novice, but they're not the same. There is difference, there is variance, and it's important to understand that, because you understand more intuitively how it works, and you'll understand as a process, and you'll understand that like a beginner is going to have like a really wide variation in their execution. So like jumping on, like when someone rounds their back in a deadlift, jumping on that's fucking pointless because they don't know. They're stage 2, stage 1. They haven't got a fucking clue. They rounded their back and they don't know how to fix it. And you jumping on top of them, and be like, don't do that, don't do that. But they don't know how to fix it. So it's only really like coaches are really useful around 3 and 4. I mean, they're useful the whole way, but well, they're really useful in stage 1 because you gotta give the person a schematic. You gotta give the person an understanding of what they're trying to do. But stage 2, we're pretty much useless in stage 2. And this is one of the most frustrating things that I'll find when I'm teaching people how to do something. And it depends how long it takes them to get it. But I'll be giving them cues, like, for example, what's a good one? Grab the floor of your foot, right? For example, push your big toe down, something like that, and squat. And they'll be like, yeah. And then normally they'll say, yeah. And you'll be like, is there a difference? They'll be like, yeah. When there is no fucking difference. They have no idea what's just happened. And then a year later, it'll click. And they'll go, oh yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, push my big toe down. They'll literally repeat the fucking cue you just gave them after a year of you fucking banging the door. And it should be a moment of elation. It should be like a eureka moment, but it's so fucking frustrating as a coach. But it's part of the game. Anyway, I've probably talked enough on this. I've covered all the things I wanted to say. So see you later, boys, I guess. Or maybe see you next week. Who knows?